Big 12 South race gets even hotter this week as Oklahoma State takes on Texas Tech this weekend, and OU waits to see what happens. Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Bedlam Nation Conversation. Here at the Dodge Sports Desk at the OPEBCO Studios, I'm Mike Kaler, joined as always by OSU football beat writer Scott Wright and OU football beat writer Jake Trotter. Guys, let's get to the first issue, and that's the OSU at Texas Tech game. Cowboys and Red Raiders are kind of similar this season because it seems like their defenses have finally caught up with their offenses. Texas Tech looks good. They're undefeated. They're sitting at number 2 in the country. Kind of break down this game, both of you. What do you think's going to happen? Should we expect a shootout, or are all the shootouts been thrown out the window this season?
I've been waiting for a shootout in one of these big games for a month now, and I haven't gotten it yet. So I think defense is going to decide this game. I think it'll probably still end up both teams get into the 30s or at least close. But it's going to be defensive plays, I think, that really turn the tide one way or the other in this game. Texas Tech is better in two areas this year. They're better at running the ball on offense and stopping the run on defense. That's two things that they haven't done very well at all under Mike Leach in his 8 seasons. So now that they're able to do that gives them a little bit different dimension on both sides. We'll see how it goes. Oklahoma State has been able to run the ball on anybody. Kendall Hunter went over 150 yards against Missouri and against Texas, who had the number 2 rush defense in the country at the time. So they've shown they can run the ball. It'll just come down to, I think, who makes the bigger stops on defense and gets the turnovers at the right time.
Shootout. These are the 2 best defenses in the Big 12 statistically, right? Wouldn't this be like a 10-7 game? No, I think it's going to be in the 20s, similar to Texas, and It's going to come down to, can OSU deliver on that final drive? That's going to be the key to the game.
How big of a factor is Kendall Hunter? You mentioned how well they've been running. You know, he's easily the best running back now in the league, it seems like to me. How big a problem is that going to give Tech, do you think?
Kendall Hunter? A lot of problems, right? I mean, what Oklahoma State would like to do is do what they did against Missouri, establish Kendall Hunter, play action, go deep. And I think that's what they're going to try to do.
Yeah, Dez Bryant gets a lot of attention because he makes the highlight reel plays, the plays that look like you're playing PlayStation out there sometimes. But Kendall Hunter is the guy that really makes a lot of this go because he's able to get that run going early, and they can use that all throughout the game, and then it creates those opportunities for Dez Bryant to get open on those deep passes and do what he does. And Kendall Hunter right now, even if you look around the country, Javon Ringer had a pretty weak game over the weekend, averaged about 2.7 yards per carry. I think you've got to consider Kendall Hunter in the race for All-American right now.
What do you think? What about Crabtree? Well, everybody will be talking about the big kind of Crabtree versus Dez matchup. How do you think that's going to play out?
The big thing for Dez is to have a big game in one of these big games. Mm-hmm. He hasn't scored a touchdown on the road, period, not even at Washington State earlier this year. He's been held under 100 yards in all 3 road games. Didn't even get to 50 against Missouri, had 74 yards against Texas. Not that that's a terrible week, but for what he's doing the rest of in all the other games, he needs to show that he can do it in a big time game on a national stage too. So that's going to be the key for him if he wants to prove that he's right on that same level with Michael Crabtree, which, having watched him all season, I really think that he is.
Does Crabtree benefit just from having the big play in the big game of the year? I mean, is that his one edge over Dez that you think at this point?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you start showing highlights of these guys, and that play is the ultimate right now. Mm-hmm. The big catch, and if you watch that catch from the behind the end zone angle, he kind of bobbles that as he's turning. It was really a phenomenal play. It's a really great play. He stays in bounds and scores the touchdown to win the biggest game in Texas Tech history.
Alrighty, thanks. We'll be back right after this message from Dodge with the Bedlam Nation Conversation to talk about the Sooners. And we're back here on the Bedlam Nation Conversation presented by Dodge. Now let's talk about the Sooners. They've got A&M this week. How much time do you want to devote to that game? Like
as much time as you want. I can go 24 hours. I can go 2 minutes.
Talk a little bit about that game. And the real question I have is kind of, we need to look at the Big 12 South too, and who's in the best position at this point too?
Well, let me first go after A&M. You look at their roster, their lineup, their starting lineup. Where's Stephen McGee? Where's Javorsky Lang? Where's Michael Goodson? None of the guys that have been the impact players for this team over the past couple of years are really making an impact this year.
I think they're still on the roster.
Yeah, oh yeah. Jaworski Lane has like 25 carries this entire year. He had 45 touchdowns in his first 3 years. He has 2 this year. Michael Goodson's been hurt with a knee injury. Steve McGee's been passed on the depth chart. He's been hurt too. So it's a bunch of new guys, a bunch of young guys. They're going to be jacked up to play OU. I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of 28-0, similar to what we've seen in the past couple
of
days.
Say Mike Sherman doesn't know what he's doing.
Which Mike Sherman we talking about?
Okay, let's talk about the Big 12 South. We kind of played these scenarios out this week, but looking at it, what's the most likely to happen? Do you think? Both of you, do you think? And where's the biggest long shot in all of this?
Well, you have to look at who's favored. Texas Tech is favored Oklahoma State, only by 3, which is kind of surprising. I thought it might be a little bit more. That bodes well for OSU. I think OU will be a 6-point favorite probably against Tech in Norman. So you got to think that OU is in pretty good shape based on the fact that the team that they need to win is favored in the team that they're playing the week after in this whole tiebreaker scenario. They're favored against. And then it'll come down to Bedlam, obviously. So I think OU has the best chance of maybe getting to the Big 12 championship, other than probably Texas, maybe. I don't know. But if OSU beats Tech, then it flips all around. I say OU doesn't have as good a chance as OSU, because then you look at OSU's remaining games, Colorado, and then they get OU in Stillwater. So I think this game is going to be very telling how the Big 12 race is going to shake out.
Yeah, it all comes down to the 2 state schools against Texas Tech. They both need Tech to lose to the other, or to beat the other. I'm sorry. So it could go either way. And the bad thing for people around the state who are just college football fans of the 2 state schools, if they both win, they're kind of left out in the cold unless Kansas can go up and
which I think is a possibility. Everybody's telling me I'm
is.
Crazy. Kansas is not a bad team. I mean, they got waxed by Texas Tech at home, and that hurt them. But they came back and played really well against Kansas State. Played OU relatively tough in Norman. They're passed away from beating South Florida on the road. This is a team at home that could give Texas a run for its money. And the Bedlam schools really need a root for that to happen, because then it opens up for Bedlam to be for the Big 12 South title, which would be obviously a lot of fun.
Bigger than me.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes that crystal clear, I'm sure. We'll be back with our last segment, which is predictions here on the Bedlam Nation Conversation. But first, this word from Dodge. And we're back on the final segment here in the Bedlam Nation Conversation. Let's do predictions. You can even pick the OSU game too. Scott, what do you say about what's going to happen with OSU Texas Tech?
I think because of the situation that Texas Tech is in, coming off really what is the biggest win in their school's history, their only victory over a number 1 team ever, and it just happens to be their biggest in-state rival. I think that they can't come back from that. I think Oklahoma State goes in there and wins a close one. I'll go 31-28.
Drinking the Kool-Aid. Okay. What do you say, Jakey?
You know who's number 1 in the Big 12 in turnover margin? Oklahoma State. You know who's number 1 in rush offense? That's going to be the difference. I like the Cowboys in Texas Tech to set up Bedlam for the Big 12 South title.
You got a score?
Let's go 31-28.
And you said the Sooners win in the shutout?
No, 31-28.
No,
the Sooners?
Yeah.
I don't know, 68-0. No, I'm just kidding. College Station, might keep the game relatively close in the first half. I'm going to say 56-7. How about that?
All right, sounds good. Thanks, guys. We'll be back next week with the Bedlam Nation Conversation as we build towards Bedlam. Until then, be sure to follow the best coverage of OU and OSU football anywhere on newsok.com, newsok.tv, and every day in the Oklahoma.
Let's see it.